See, attention is not just a tool, it is the very mechanism through which life enters your experience. What you call as perception, what you see, hear, feel, and know, all of it is determined by the quality of your attention. If your attention is sharp, life seems vivid. If your attention is scattered, life is a blur. It is not the world that becomes dull, it is your own attention that has lost its strength. Today, most human beings are trying to fix the world so they can experience peace. But I am telling you, if you fix your attention, the world becomes a beautiful place even in chaos. When your attention is fragmented, your perception is fragmented. It's like looking at life through a cracked lens. Everything seems broken, unclear. But when your attention is gathered, focused, undisturbed, it is like polishing the mirror of your mind. Suddenly, clarity arises, and with that clarity comes understanding. People think intelligence is about how much information you have gathered. No, intelligence is the sharpness of attention. A child can pay complete attention to a butterfly. A so-called adult cannot sit still for 2 minutes without twitching. The problem is not life's complexity. The problem is the inability to hold attention on one thing. That is what distorts perception and makes simple situations appear overwhelming. If you can hold your attention on one point, even for a few moments, you will notice something profound. The noise inside you begins to settle. You start to see not just what is there, but how it is. Perception deepens. You are no longer just seeing the surface of things. You start to feel the depth, the essence. Whether you look at a tree, a face, or a thought, it reveals more when your attention is unwavering. In that sense, attention is a kind of magic. It can turn the mundane into the miraculous. People ask, how do I become more intuitive? How do I make better decisions? How do I understand life better? The answer is not in accumulating more answers. It is in deepening your attention, because attention is what makes perception possible, and perception is what leads to insight. Without attention, even the most beautiful moment will pass unnoticed. Without attention, even love will be missed. Even truth will walk by and you won't know it. Look at how you live your day. Your phone beeps, your attention goes there. Someone calls, your attention goes there. A thought arises, your attention chases it. In this way, you have trained yourself to become distracted, not focused. It is not that focus is hard. It is just that we have built habits of scattering ourselves in all directions. To reverse this, you don't need effort, you need awareness. You need to realize that your attention is your life. Where it goes, your experience follows. If I ask you to look at a flower and not think of anything else for 5 minutes, most people will say it's impossible. Not because the flower is not beautiful, but because their attention is not in their control. A mind that cannot stay where the body is, that is the source of most suffering. Your body is here, the moment is here, but your attention is either dragging the past or chasing the future. In that tug-of-war, the present is lost, and when the present is lost, life itself becomes elusive. Attention is the first step to awareness, and awareness is the doorway to everything: joy, wisdom, love, truth. But it begins with this simple thing: can you be fully with what is in front of you? Can you look at someone or something without labeling, judging, reacting, just being present? This may sound simple, but it is the most transformative practice. Not by doing something dramatic, but just by being absolutely attentive, you begin to access deeper dimensions of perception. You begin to see what others miss, feel what others overlook, and experience what others only imagine. When you bring your attention fully to something, it starts to open up. It reveals itself in a way that it wouldn't for a casual glance. Just like when you really listen to someone, not just waiting for your turn to speak, but truly listening, suddenly the other person blossoms. In the same way, when you place your attention on life with care, with stillness, with presence, life responds. It starts speaking to you in ways you never noticed before, but for that, your attention must become still, not shaky. It must become steady, not reactive. Because only with such attention does true perception become possible. Shall I continue with keynote #2 in the same style? When people talk about distraction, they usually point to something outside of them. They say the phone is distracting, The people are distracting, the noise, the news, the world, all are distractions. But let's understand this clearly. Distraction is not out there, it is in here. The mind is not disturbed because of the world. The mind is disturbed because it has no discipline, it is not trained. A scattered mind will find distraction even in silence. A focused mind will find stillness even in chaos. The nature of the mind is such it is like a monkey. But not just any monkey, a drunken monkey, bitten by a scorpion. It jumps not because something is pulling it. It jumps because that is its habit. The same way, your mind jumps from one thing to another, thought to thought, feeling to feeling, screen to screen, not because those things are demanding your attention, but because your mind has never learned how to be still. It has never been told that it is okay to stay with one thing long enough to see it fully. You may think the world today is uniquely distracting with technology, social media, and constant updates, but distraction has always existed. Even in a forest, the mind can wander. Even in a temple, the mind can chatter. The real issue is not the environment, it is the internal restlessness. If you do not bring your mind to discipline, you could be sitting in a Himalayan cave and still be endlessly distracted by your own memories and imaginations. The noise is not in the world, the noise is in the head. This is not about blaming yourself. This is about becoming aware. When you understand that distraction is not an external force, you stop fighting the world and start working on your own chemistry. You begin to see that the mind is simply responding to the patterns it has been fed for years. It has been taught to seek novelty, stimulation, entertainment, so naturally it avoids stillness. Stillness feels like boredom to a scattered mind, but boredom is not a lack of things to do, it is simply a lack of presence. People say, I can't meditate, too many thoughts. But this is like saying, I can't sit by the river because the water is flowing. Of course, the water flows, that is its nature. The issue is not the thoughts. The issue is your identification with them. The moment a thought arises, you jump on it and ride it like a horse. You don't even realize you are doing it. It has become unconscious. Distraction is simply unconscious engagement with the unnecessary. Once you become conscious of what you are paying attention to, the distraction begins to dissolve. You don't have to fight distractions. You have to become bigger than them. A scattered mind is like a broken mirror. It cannot reflect anything clearly. Your experience of life becomes fragmented, distorted. But if you bring coherence to your mind, if you bring it together, then your perception sharpens. You see life as it is, not through the dust of 10,000 unprocessed thoughts. You don't react to everything, you don't chase every impulse. You begin to live by choice, not by compulsion. People often ask, how do I stop getting distracted? The answer is not to eliminate the distractions, but to bring attention to the source of attention itself. If you sit quietly and simply observe the mind without judgment, without trying to control it, you will see its restlessness. And just seeing that, just becoming aware of the movement, starts to create space. That space is your freedom. Between one thought and the next, there is a gap. In that gap is your liberation from distraction. The mind is not the enemy, it is just a tool, but if the tool becomes the master, life becomes chaos. You don't have to destroy the mind, you have to direct it. A scattered mind is a mind that has no direction. It just moves by habit, but if you give it a clear direction, if you say, this is what I want to focus on, and if you keep bringing it back whenever it strays, it slowly learns. Like training a puppy, not by shouting at it, but by gentle repetition, by awareness, by patience. Even in a crowded marketplace, one can remain undisturbed if the mind is trained, and even in a quiet room, one can be in turmoil if the mind is untrained. So don't look at what is around you, look at what is within you. Are you scattered or are you collected? Are you reacting or are you responding? These questions decide whether your life is led by distraction or guided by clarity. Most people think focus means to strain, to struggle, to clench their teeth and force the mind to stay on one thing. But focus is not about effort. Real focus is a natural consequence of clarity. When you are clear about what matters, when you see something as truly significant, focus flows effortlessly. You don't have to force it. When something grips your attention from within, you don't need to be told to concentrate. You simply do. Focus becomes effortless when there is no confusion in the mind, no conflict in the intention. Effort comes into the picture only when there is division. When part of you wants to do one thing and another part wants something else, then you feel this push and pull. That's where effort arises. But when all aspects of you are aligned, when your thought, emotion, and energy are moving in the same direction, then focus is not a burden, it is a byproduct of inner coherence. It is like a river flowing in one channel instead of breaking into 1,000 tiny streams. That unified flow is what creates the power we call focus. Clarity doesn't mean you have all the answers. Clarity means you have seen what is essential. Once the essential becomes visible, the rest loses its grip. The mind stops being pulled in all directions because it has found something deeper to anchor itself. 1,000 things may call for your attention, but you respond only to what truly matters. This is not neglect. This is wisdom. This is not disconnection. This is discrimination, the ability to know what to hold and what to release. You don't have to struggle to focus when you are doing something you truly love or care about. Have you noticed how easily you focus when something touches your passion, your longing, your truth? The body forgets to feel tired, the clock seems irrelevant, and the world fades into the background. This is not because of discipline or practice. This is because of clarity. You know, even if unconsciously, that this is where your energy belongs. So energy flows, attention settles, and focus becomes natural. The problem is not that people cannot focus. The problem is they are trying to focus on things that do not resonate with them. They are forcing themselves to be attentive to things they have no clarity about. When you don't know why you are doing something, when there is no inner alignment with the action, the mind will wander. It will resist, it will rebel. That is not a failure of focus, it is a signal from within that clarity is missing. Before trying to be more focused, ask yourself, am I even clear about what I want and why I want it? Children are often scolded for not paying attention. But very few ever ask the child what truly excites them, what lights up their curiosity, because where curiosity is, focus follows, not by command but by nature. This is true not just for children but for everyone. You cannot force the mind into focus, but you can invite it by offering it something that speaks to its core. Clarity is that offering. When clarity dawns, even a restless mind begins to settle, not through control, but through recognition. Focus is not something you do, it is something that happens when you are clear. Just like your eyes don't strain to look at something beautiful, they simply settle. In the same way, your mind doesn't strain when it sees something meaningful. It simply becomes still. The stillness of mind is not the result of pressure, but of precision. When you become precise about your direction, the rest becomes irrelevant. Distractions lose their power when your direction becomes undeniable. We live in a time where people chase productivity, time management, efficiency. But all of this becomes secondary when you understand the power of clarity. A single moment of clear, focused action can do more than hours of distracted effort. The arrow flies straight not because it tries hard, but because it is aimed well. That aim is clarity. And that straight flight, that's what we call focus. So, the next time you feel distracted, don't ask how to concentrate harder. Ask instead, what is clouding my clarity? What is dividing my attention? What is unresolved within me that pulls me in 10 directions at once? If you bring clarity, focus will come like breath, not forced, but natural. It will become not something you do, but something you are. When there is no division, there is direction, and where there is direction, focus follows like a shadow. Whatever you pay attention to grows in your experience. Not because the thing has changed, but because your energy has gone there. Energy is not some abstract concept floating around. It is your life force, your vitality, your very ability to experience. Wherever your focus goes, that energy begins to flow. This is not philosophy, this is the mechanics of inner life. If you focus on anger, you energize it. If you focus on peace, you energize that. The focus is the switch, energy is the current, and experience is the light that comes on. Most people do not realize how much power they have simply by choosing where they place their attention. Every single moment, you are investing energy. The question is, in what? Are you pouring your energy into growth, clarity, stillness? Or are you unconsciously feeding fear, doubt, comparison, and endless mental noise? The direction of your life is not determined by outside conditions, but by this simple truth: where focus is, energy follows. This is why some people can take one small opportunity and turn it into something extraordinary, while others may have everything yet accomplish very little. It is not about how much they have, it is about how intensely they focus, because where intensity is, energy gathers. A magnifying glass does nothing special to sunlight, it only directs it. That focused sunlight can burn paper. In the same way, your life becomes potent when your focus becomes sharp. Scattered light cannot burn anything, scattered energy cannot build anything, but focused energy creates impact. When people say they feel drained, tired, uninspired, it's not because life has taken something from them. It's because they are bleeding energy through scattered attention. One moment they are here, the next they are somewhere else. They are mentally multitasking, emotionally overstimulated, constantly shifting gears without ever fully engaging in anything. In such a state, energy leaks through every crack. Without realizing it, they become exhausted, not because of what they are doing, but because of how they are doing it, without presence, without alignment, without focus. If you observe yourself carefully, you will notice this. When you do something with full involvement, it energizes you. Even physical tiredness feels sweet when the action is focused and aligned. But when you do something half-heartedly, without clarity or connection, even a small task feels burdensome. So, it is not the size of the task that decides your energy, it is the quality of your attention. Focus renews energy. Distraction drains it. People often chase motivation. But motivation is like a spark, it comes and goes. Focus is the firewood, it keeps the flame alive. If you want to build a powerful life, don't look for external inspiration. Look at where your focus is. Is it fragmented or directed? Is it casual or committed? If you bring your full focus to anything, even something simple, it will begin to change. It will begin to reveal its depth, and you will begin to grow through it. This is why spiritual processes always emphasize attention. It is not about beliefs. It is about becoming so aware, so focused, that your whole system starts moving in one direction. In yoga, we call this ekagrata, one-pointedness. When the mind becomes one-pointed, energy aligns. When energy aligns, transformation happens not in years, but in moments. But this requires a shift from compulsive doing to conscious being. Not just more action, but more attention. Every human being has the same amount of energy to start with. But what they create with it is vastly different. One person creates peace, another creates stress. One builds harmony, another builds conflict. The same energy, flowing in different directions, brings different outcomes. So the question is not how much energy you have. The question is, are you using it consciously? Are you aware of where your focus is going? If you sit quietly and just bring your attention to your breath, even for a few minutes, you will notice something subtle. Your body relaxes, your mind begins to settle, your senses become sharper. This is not magic. This is alignment. You have withdrawn your energy from 100 scattered impulses and brought it to one simple act. That is focus, and in that focused presence, energy returns to you. It becomes available to you once again. In this way, life becomes not a struggle but a flow. You begin to move with ease, with grace, not because life has become easier, but because you are no longer wasting energy in unnecessary places. You are investing it where it truly matters. What you focus on becomes stronger, louder, more present. If you focus on clarity, you become clear. If you focus on chaos, you live in confusion. This is not a moral statement. This is simply the way energy behaves within the human system. There is only one place where life is happening, and that is now. Not in your memory, not in your imagination, but now. This moment is the doorway, the axis upon which all of existence turns. But the tragedy is, most people live everywhere but here. They are walking through life with their attention hijacked by a past they cannot change or a future that doesn't exist. In that, they miss the only thing that truly belongs to them. This moment, the present, is not a poetic idea. It is the only reality that breathes. Everything else is either recollection or projection. If you truly look, the past is just faded impressions on the mind, and the future is just possibilities, not yet real. But this breath, this heartbeat, this sensation in your hand or face, this is happening now. Yet, because attention is scattered, people fail to taste the richness of now. The power of the present is not hidden, it is simply missed because attention has been squandered in 1,000 directions. Focus is not about holding your mind tight. Focus is about releasing all that is unnecessary so that your full being can settle into this moment. When you bring focused attention to the now starts to open up like a flower. It is not flat, it is not empty, it is layered, vibrant, alive, but only if you are present. The power of the now is not in the clock. It is in your consciousness. It is in the intensity of your presence. It is in your ability to hold your attention right here, right now, without drifting. Every experience becomes deeper when met with focused attention. Whether you are eating, walking, speaking, or sitting in silence, if your attention is fully here, the ordinary turns extraordinary. You start noticing the subtle. You start seeing the life in small things. You start feeling connected, not because something outside has changed, but because you have arrived fully. You are not partially here and partially lost in thought. You are here entirely. That is the doorway to true experience. In the yogic tradition, they never taught you philosophies. They taught you how to sit, how to breathe, how to walk, not because these actions matter more than others, but because these are opportunities to train your attention to stay with the now. The mind wants to go somewhere else, that is its habit. But the body is always in the present. So if you bring your attention to your body, to your breath, to the sensation of sitting or standing, you are immediately rooted in the now. People speak of mindfulness as a practice. But mindfulness is simply the natural result of focused attention in the present. If your attention is not in the present, you are absent. You may appear awake, but inside you are dreaming. You are running stories, arguing with memories, rehearsing fears, fantasizing desires. You are everywhere but here. And when you are not here, life passes you by. Not because it is hiding, but because you were not looking. The mind believes that by dwelling on the past or projecting into the future, it will find safety or satisfaction. But this is an illusion. Nothing real ever happens outside the now. Even your thoughts about the past and future are happening now. So the question is not whether you think about tomorrow. The question is whether you are aware that you are thinking now. If there is awareness, if there is focused attention, then even thinking becomes conscious. Otherwise, it is just unconscious noise that takes you away from reality. Focused attention is not a rigid state. It is not tension, it is alert stillness. It is being so aware that nothing moves within you without your knowing. It is being present with what is, whether it is a sound, a sensation, an emotion, or silence. When you become that attentive, the mind begins to quiet on its own. Not because you force it, but because it has nothing to chase. It has found something more alive than thought. The presence of now, this moment, has the answer to every question, the key to every door, the peace you seek, the clarity you long for, but you can only access it through the precision of attention. The now does not shout, it whispers, and only when your attention is finely tuned can you hear it. The sharper your attention, the deeper the now becomes, and in that depth life ceases to be a struggle. It becomes a dance, a flowing intelligence that moves through you without resistance. The mind is like a lens. When scattered, it shows you only fragments. When focused, it reveals depth, clarity, and precision. A distracted mind does not lack intelligence, it lacks stillness. In the constant rush of impressions and reactions, the subtle aspects of life are lost. What is obvious to a focused mind remains invisible to one that is entangled in noise. The issue is not about adding more to the mind, more knowledge, more stimulation, more opinions. The issue is about removing the clutter so that what is already here can be seen clearly. You do not need new eyes to see reality. You need a still mind. A distracted world believes that insight comes from more information, but clarity is not a product of accumulation. It is the fruit of awareness. You can be surrounded by facts and still be confused. Or you can sit in silence and see what others miss entirely. The difference is not in the environment. The difference is in the level of focus. A mind that is anchored sees what drifts by unnoticed for everyone else today. Distraction has become a lifestyle. Devices, demands, conversations, endless input. People are overwhelmed not because the world has become more complex, but because their inner environment has become disordered. Attention is pulled in so many directions that it becomes thin, fragile. In this fragility, the capacity to perceive deeply is lost. You may be looking but not seeing, hearing but not listening, doing but not living. When the mind is dispersed, presence is lost. When presence is lost, perception becomes shallow. To see clearly is not just about the eyes. It is about whether your consciousness is steady enough to reflect reality as it is. A focused mind is like a still lake, it mirrors the sky perfectly. A distracted mind is like a stormy sea, always moving, never clear. When you quiet the turbulence within, life begins to reveal its details. You notice the space between sounds, you catch the intention behind a word, you feel the subtle shifts in energy, in mood, in meaning. This is not mystical, this is simple sensitivity born out of focus in a world that celebrates speed. The power of still attention is forgotten. People rush to find answers, but in their rushing, they miss the very thing they are looking for. Insight does not arrive through hurry, it arrives through observation. When you bring your attention fully to one thing, not out of force, but out of willingness, that one thing begins to unfold. Whether it's a task, a person, a thought, or your breath, focus allows you to enter the experience fully. And in that fullness, understanding grows. A distracted world believes multitasking is a skill. But what it really does is divide your mind into shallow slices, never allowing you to go deep enough into anything to know it truly. Focus is not limitation, it is liberation from the meaningless. It is the ability to choose depth over surface, quality over quantity. The one who knows how to focus is not missing out on life. He is experiencing it more intimately than anyone else. He is not skipping from branch to branch, he is sinking into the roots in the ancient yogic sciences. Perception is considered more important than belief. Because belief comes from memory, perception comes from attention. A distracted mind lives through memory and imagination, always a step removed from reality. A focused mind is rooted in what is, not what was or what might be. It doesn't need to believe because it sees, and in seeing there is no need for persuasion, no confusion, only clarity even in the most ordinary moment. A focused mind discovers something extraordinary. This is why the great sages were not dazzled by possessions, not swayed by fame, because their inner attention was sharp enough to see the transient nature of all these things. They saw the dance of life not just in its outer expression, but in its inner rhythm. That rhythm is always there in a leaf, in a smile, in the silence between thoughts, but it reveals itself only to those who are focused enough to notice. Distraction is like static, it blocks the signal. Focus is tuning the dial until the message comes through clearly. That message is not always loud, it doesn't scream, it whispers, it speaks in the language of intuition, stillness, direct knowing. If your mind is noisy, you won't hear it. But if your mind is focused, it becomes unmistakable.